Welcome back to the channel. My name's Adam Smith, and inside this GameFound preview series, we head into the finale for Bloodwork from iDemo Games. We'll pick things up where we left it off in part number 1, which is at the end of round number 3 as we move into round number 4. Now, it is worth mentioning, if you haven't checked out my prototype unboxing, the how to set up video, or part number 1 of gameplay, you'll want to check all those out to get a great understanding as to what we got set up here on the table and where we're at in this mission to take down the leader, the Giggarat. Now, before we go ahead and pull the very first fate card of round number 4, we do have the option to use Gambit in order to positionally move some individuals around. It's worth mentioning, though, the archers already use Gambit, so I can't do that yet again with the archer, but the other individuals do have some movement if I want to get them in specific places. I'm deciding not to use Gambit as we transition into round number 4. The fate card is Goblin Sticker, Get Them, and the grunts are going to be going first, attacking the closest enemies, then the heroes, and then afterwards, we have the leader reviving 1. We're also going to uptick the enrage for the leader, jumping up to 4, getting closer and closer to 6. There's only 2 goblins left, Goblin Sticker archers, and the other grunts have been dealt with, so it's just blue and gray in that order to activate. The Goblin Sticker in blue is going to flip around and target our archer, taking a shot at it from distance. I've also removed all the exposed tokens, which by the end of round number 3, all of them would have been removed. We're now in 4, so this Goblin Sticker is making an attack against our archer right now. So we got 3 D10s coming into the equation, and let's see how things pan out. We got ourselves 6+. If we see 6+ on any of these dice, that's going to be a hit for the enemy. A 6, an 8, and a 5, that is 2 hits at 4 damage each. That is 8 right there. And the enemy is going to be targeting the arms of the archer, which are completely wide open in terms of armor, but we do have protection, so the 8 gets reduced down to 7. The archer's health goes from 14 down to 7. Next up, the Goblin Sticker is going to swing around and attack the warrior 3 spaces away with a ranged attack. Let's find out how this attack's going to go for us. A 5, 4, and a 9, so only the 9 hits, that's 4 damage going at the warrior. The blood card off the top of the deck ends up being, for the enemies, it's hitting our legs, which unfortunately has no armor, but we do have 2 protections, so 4 minus 2, 2 damage going through. We currently have 24, so we're dropping down to 22. That's going to do it for the grunts. We now transition to the hero's activation, where my aim is to try to take out all the rest of the goblins, and then with whatever we have left, we're going after the leader. We'll activate the archer first, who's going to gain focus at the end of its activation. Using a move action, I'll just move 1 to make sure I have line of sight clearly to both enemies on either side. We're going to focus on the Goblin Sticker over here first. I'm going to use my Elven Bow, which is going to allow me to do a range 4 attack on this Goblin Sticker right here. 3 dice going into the equation, D10s, 7+ for accuracy, 10 will be critical. We are looking for a total of 4 damage to take out this blue Goblin Sticker. Hopefully we can pull that off. We got ourselves a crit here, a very poor miss here, and a poor miss here, but the 1 crit might get us there. Let's go ahead and pull the card and see what we get. We get 3 off the critical, so we're going to get 3 from this die, 3 from the critical. That's a total of 6. And as it's a critical, it'll impact the weakest area, which is going to be a headshot on the Goblin Sticker. So 6 going straight through is more than enough to take out this 4 HP Goblin Sticker. The archer's going to gain its 3rd Goblin Head, and on top of it, we'll also increase the achievement specific to the archer. And that's going to be the Death Blow Expert. So right now we've got 3 here. We need 1 more to complete this achievement. The Goblin Archer is finally getting low on the health side of the equation at 7, so let's go ahead and eat up that travel rations card we have here in order to gain 5 HP. So the Archer's health is looking a bit better. Let's take a look at the skill actions we could potentially perform with the Archer. I've got 6 focus currently. At the end of the activation, I'm going to gain an additional 3, so we can think about what we could potentially do here. I could even do just a piercing arrow for 4, because I am in a straight line, and do an attack there. I could do bullseye. That's going to allow me to exploit basically going past the defenses. That probably makes more sense for the exact same cost. So let's go with a bullseye attack. So that skill action is going to cost us 4, which I've dropped myself down to 2. Let's make the attack, and this individual is going to be exploited, so the defenses of it are not going to matter. Exploit essentially means on this attack, it's going to ignore armor, so I won't bother placing a token at this point in time. We're just going to make the attack. Now, the archer's shooting from range, of course, so flipping around to face the leader, we're going to go ahead and roll 3 dice here and hoping for good things. Again, accuracy 7+, crit chances on a 10. Here we go. A very solid roll overall. We have 2 hits here on 7 and a crit. The crit is going to provide us additional hits. We have 3 and 3 so far at 6. And this right here gives us an additional 2, which is awesome. And that's going to be hitting the body. Again, it doesn't matter necessarily in this case in terms of where it hits because the armor's not going to matter. It normally, I believe, would be 2 for this character. I'm going to take a look at the leader here really quick. And the body's actually 3. It's even tougher, but thankfully we get to go right past that. So an 8 damage hit on an individual with 30 health, dropping it to 22. Not bad at all. We also want to keep in mind this item it says when the leader's HP reaches 0, heal 7 and discard. You can go ahead and acquire this by killing the leader while he has 4 or less HP. So we want to bring this leader down to the point that he's within 4 essentially, and then kill him outright from there to be able to obtain this item. It's also worth mentioning that the blue goblin sticker was killed off, so I've taken that out of the tray system as well. The only one left is the gray goblin sticker. That's going to be the end of the archer's turn, so we're gaining 3 focus, which will jump us up to 5. We also took a hit from the goblin sticker at the very beginning of the round, and when you take damage from a hit on the archer, you're going to lose a focus, so we actually would have 1 less. It's worth mentioning that can be a tricky effect to remember as you're placing damage on a character and focusing more on the attack that's actually happening and the damage being dealt. You might forget to down-tick the focus for getting some damage against the archer, but try your best to remember that. I might have missed that a little bit in part number 1 once or twice. Now let's activate the warrior, who's going to use 2 movement of his move action to get right up next to that goblin sticker. He's going to go ahead and use his Battle Hammer option, which allows him to drop his dice used, which is going to be down to 2 instead of 3, to get Overpower plus 3. He already has 1, so that's an Overpower 4 going into the equation. We're going to roll some dice. This thing only has 2 health, and with a 9 and a 3, that is guaranteeing this thing is killed off, as each hit is 2 on top of all the Overpower. That is a kill and another head for this party. So that's going to be a goblin head for the warrior. Now the knockback that comes as part of the blacksmith's hammer here would, I believe, happen after you've applied all the damage, and if the enemy's killed, the knockback wouldn't actually occur because the enemy can't, it's gone, it's been killed off. So I don't believe I get the bump up on the achievement at this point. However, with the last 2 grunts killed off, that is going to ensure we have 6 total goblin heads at this point. So this is our sole focus at this point. We certainly want to take him out before he becomes enraged. Essentially what enraged means is it means he's going to move through the fate deck at a faster pace. If he happens to actually be going before the heroes, he's going to do what he does before the heroes and then draw the next card, which means he's going to essentially be getting almost double activations because he's so mad. Pretty nasty. We want to avoid that. That starts happening going from round 7 onwards, so we're going to make sure we kill this thing by round 6. Now, it's worth mentioning that I've been saving up a lot of fury, and after doing damage to that goblin, I'm bumping up yet again from 7 to 9. So I've got a whole bunch of banked fury that I can now unleash on the leader if I get up close and personal. My skills at the moment are not helpful, but having 9 fury in my back pocket for my warrior is huge for later on when I get my movement, so I can head right towards this goblin and maybe do 2 skill actions back to back, which would be crazy. So we'll end off the warrior's turn right now. That's 2 of the 4 heroes done. The remaining 2 characters to go are the cleric south, and on the far east side we have the mage. Let's go ahead and activate the mage. She'll try and head up towards the area to dig in order to hopefully find treasure. She's going to use 1 move of her movement action to get right adjacent to that dig site. Now let's roll a d10. If it's a 5+, we found 2 gold. We got ourselves a 6. That is an additional 2. Now the party has 4. We also have a contract to uptick by 2, actually, as I forgot to actually increase that tracker in part number 1. When we find each of these dig sites, we're going to go ahead and uptick the Lost Ledgers contract by 1. So at this point, it should be on 2. So that's this contract right here. So we'll go ahead and bump this up by 2. And we'll add 2 more gold into the inventory for a total of 4. I want to show you this visually. As the mage uses mana, as we know, it jumps up by 2 at the beginning of the activation, so we have 4 to use. Now, taking a look for a skill action here, I'm thinking of using teleport for 3, so we'll drop this down to 1, and we can go 8 spaces. Let's get the mage within striking distance of the goblin leader and potential support for the allies. So we'll place her right here, and at this point, that's going to do it for her activation. The cleric is now going to activate, also gaining 2 mana, has 0, jumping up to 2, and we're going to do some movement here. I have 6 movement. That's going to get the cleric right next to the goblin leader, and we'll do a regular attack here using the temple sword as well as a temple blade to help us on our crit chance. We have 3 black dice going into the equation. 7+ is the accuracy. We get crits on 8+, which is awesome for this cleric. Very powerful that way. And offensively, a hit is going to equal 3. So let's see how we do off the roll here. A 9, a crit, and a 1. That's a fantastic result. Let's go ahead and pull a card off the top here to see what the crit does. That's 3 additional damage, so 3, 3, and 3 is 9, and it's going after the legs of this enemy. So with 9 damage, but 2 defense on the legs, 7 gets through. We're getting there. The leader's been knocked down to 15 health. That'll do it for the hero activations. Let's check out the fate card for the leader. You'll see at the very bottom portion it says Fresh Meat, Revive 1. And we knew based on the fate card he was going to revive. He's going to take the last killed off individual and bring them back at full health, which is 10 HP for this goblin sticker. Just before we pull the fate card for round number 4, let's decide if we want to use Gambit, and I'm choosing not to. Across my 3 characters, they're positioned in good spots, and I'll be able to get them where they need to be with their movement. Let's go ahead and pull the fate card. This is very interesting indeed. The leader's going first, gaining Fire Arrow state and attacking a random enemy first, then the heroes, and then the one grunt, if it's still alive, of course. The Fire Arrow state has been placed on the leader, meaning that the burn condition is going to hit the individual being attacked, which is random in this case. So we'll roll a d10 to determine it. We'll ignore 9 and 10 on the die and re-roll if we have to, but values 1 through 8 will be divided across the 4 heroes. So we'll have 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and 7 to 8 for the warrior in the back. It's time to find out which one it's going to be going after. It does have movement and range. It got 7. It is going after the warrior. The leader's movement is represented by the boot symbol here at 6, so 6 movement to use to get within 5 range. Once he's within 5 range, he'll stop moving. Also, as a new fate card was drawn, we're enraging the leader. It's now at 5. The goblin leader only needs to move 2 spaces to be in range 5 of the warrior. So it spins around and counting 5, going straight forward, and then 1 over to the right is the 5 range it needs. It's using the Burning Arrows condition for this attack. And the goblin leader is no joke in making an attack. It rolls 4 dice. Each hit is 4 damage, and it hits on 5+. Again, no criticals, but still, that is absolutely nasty. Let's see how this goes. Hopefully, we can survive this. Well, my friends, the dice absolutely love me today because that is a complete miss across the board, and it's also worth mentioning you cannot add these up to make 10 for the enemy like you can for the heroes. So as I mentioned in the narrative at the very beginning of part number 1, this goblin leader must have drank in way too much ale because that shot was way off. Now, from my understanding, for the burn condition to actually take effect, I need to be hit and actually take damage from the attack. If it's a complete miss, nothing on the condition comes over. Now it's time for the heroes to activate, and we're going to have the cleric go first. The cleric's going to gain 2 mana, jumping up to 4. It's going to use 2 movement to get right behind the goblin leader. We're going to use the Temple Sword and the Temple Blade, again getting the crit chance at 8+, and a successful hit at 7+. Very strong. Hopefully we can whittle this thing down from where it's at 15 to be within that 0 to 4 HP range. I'm thinking that with what the cleric can offer, this is actually possible. Let's see if we can pull this off again. We have to deal with armor though, but we'll see how the rolls go. Now we got ourselves an 8, which is 1 hit, and that's actually it. That's the only one that gets through, but it is a critical because the crit chance for this character is 8+, which is good. So we'll go ahead with 3 damage off the critical, and then we're going to get an additional 2 here, and it's going to be hitting the enemy's head. My mistake, it's actually going for the weakest armored area of this leader because it was a critical. So we take a look, and that is going to be its head, which is ironic, is exactly what was on the card anyway, but it's going to be 1 armor that it has. So for the 5 coming through, 4 actually gets through. So maybe not as big of a hit as we thought we might get, but 4 is still pretty solid, dropping from 15 to 11. Let's go ahead and use Death and Life. This is going to be an attack with range +2. We don't need it because we're adjacent right now, but it's going to cost us 3, so that skill action drops us down to 1. Let's make that attack, and then we can potentially heal somebody nearby because everybody is within range 8. Now, of course, we have to actually do damage. It says on damage, so hopefully we actually land hits and make damage. All right, let's roll some dice. The cleric's been very useful with his attacks. I quite like it, but it's not a very overly strong character in terms of health, only 20 health, so it's kind of dangerous to use the cleric as somebody that's almost like a tank, but it has such a good combination of cards. It's very beneficial, especially that crit chance increase is massive. Let's go ahead and see what we get here. Oh, that's a very, very poor roll, so there is nothing that's getting through on that. Well, you can't see success on all of them, so let's transition over to another hero. We'll end off the cleric's turn right there. However, the cleric does have a free heal we can use for an ally, so let's go ahead and heal somebody nearby. I think we'll heal the ranger by 2. That'll jump the ranger from 12 to 14. Let's go ahead and activate the mage first. She can move so fast with that teleport. She's going to gain 2 right now, bringing her up to 3 to start her turn. And she can actually use the teleport this turn plus her movement. So she's got a move of 6. She could spend all 3 mana to then do a teleport. And she should maybe be able to get all the way over to that other token hiding between the 2 buildings. So that's going to be a total of 14 we can move all at once, doing a move action and a skill action. Again, she's at a level 2 flying, so she's going to traverse right past everybody and can easily go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and be adjacent to the token. So she flies all the way to the other side of the board to be able to interact with this dig site to hopefully find some more gold. Let's roll. A 5+ is 2 gold, and that is another 2 gold for 6. We were successful on all 3 of them. It's worth mentioning, as I said at the very beginning of gameplay, if you happen to fail some of these, you don't gain the gold, but if you fail on 2 of them, you automatically get the 3rd one as long as you're beside it. So there is kind of a fail-forward approach with getting something if you're attempting and things aren't going right. But in this case, things went really good. 6 gold from these is great. So that's 2 more gold to go into the inventory, and that also means all the lost ledgers have been found, which is going to complete the contract, which was required at 3. That's going to do it. Now, at this point, she has an attack action she could potentially use, but she is so far away from everything, there's no way she can actually do anything. And she's also completely at a mana at this point as well, so her turn's going to end right there. All right, you guys ready for this? Let's go ahead and activate the warrior next, and the warrior is going to use its movement of 6 to get up close and personal with the goblin leader. Now I've got a whole bunch of fury stored up over the pass. We got 9 to use. I'm going to use a skill action here for Battle Shout, spending 5 of my fury, dropping down to 4, and the allies are going to gain a specific effect we'll talk about in a second, and we're going to inflict defense down on the enemies within the areas. The blue dot in the center, which might be tough to see, is representative of my warrior and where he's standing, so everybody around in a square pattern, 3 out from my warrior, kind of in a complete square. So that's going to encompass both enemies on the game board. Some cool stuff happening with that battle shout from the warriors, so it affects not only the enemies, but also the heroes. So the heroes first off get this effect called Alacrity, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which essentially means on their next attack, they're going to have an increased attack rate, meaning an additional die beyond what they normally would have, which is always good. And then, of course, once they gain that during their attack, that token is going to come off, or it comes off at the end of the round if they don't use it. And then you're going to have defense down, which is armor, and armor is going to be reduced by 2 for all attacks against that enemy during that round. So that's pretty sweet as well. Basically makes it easier to get damage against these enemies. So with my final action for the warrior, we're going to make an attack action right now. We're going to use the optional effect to gain 3 overpower. We already have the 1, so that's 4 right there. Now, normally you would lose a die to do that, but because of this condition right here, we gain it right back. So we're actually rolling 3 d10s, which is quite powerful. And we're going to roll these and see how we do. A crit is on 10 and above, well, just 10, and then 7+ for accuracy on the hits. Let's see how we do. All right, so a little bit of a mixed result here, but we did get 1 crit in the mix, so that's going to be 2 damage plus whatever the card tells us as well. An additional 2, so that's going to be 4. And on top of that, we have a combat reroll, so I can reroll one of the dice, which I certainly will, to try and see if we can make something a little bit better than what we had. We got ourselves a 3, that's going to be a miss, but we do also have overpower to add into the equation. So 4 plus another 4 from overpower is 8. It's all going straight through. There is 11 health on this leader. It is now dropped down to just 3, which is within the window we need to make a strike against it. And if we take it out, we're going to be able to take this elixir. So the token's been removed for the warrior as he's used it now, and at this point I'm very happy. That's going to end off the warrior's turn. The last individual to activate is the archer, who has the opportunity to take down the leader. It's also worth mentioning the warrior gains 2 fury, so jumping from 4 to 6 because of the successful hit against the leader. Now for the archer here, movement-wise, we're going to move a little bit to get around the tree to have a clear shot at the goblin leader. So the archer now in place, we're going to go ahead and do a regular attack action at this point. That's going to be using the elven bow, and I get a +1 in terms of an attack rate. So instead of rolling 3 dice, I'm rolling 4 thanks to this token, which I'll now remove. So we're going to grab 4 d10s and make a roll and see how this goes. We're looking for 7+. The crit is on 10. Let's see if we get what we need. We have a lot behind us on this attack. Hopefully it ends up being good with the defense down included. So, oh, there we go. And with an accuracy of 7+, that is 1, 2, 3 hits right there at 3 damage each. That is 9 damage just right there. And it's going to be hitting the body of the leader, which has 3, so 6 is getting through, and that is more than enough to take down the goblin leader. And that's going to also provide an additional last to hit on an enemy for the archer, which bumps from 3 to 4 on the achievement. And guess what? We needed 4 to complete that achievement, and we just did. Now, it's worth mentioning right now, even though the Goblin Leader's been taken down, if I had been positioned a little bit better, I could have got to a spot where I not only hit the leader, but then use a skill action next to take out the grunt, because how things work is even though the leader has been taken out, there's still a grunt, and that grunt will not run off the game board, and that will not end off the scenario until their next activation, which is actually happening literally right after the archer is finished here, but the archer is behind the tree, and the tree is fully blocking me from shooting at that last goblin. So next time, better strategy is to kind of put myself in position to be able to hit both within the same turn. So with the leader now dead and the heroes done their turn, we go to the very bottom for the grunts, and there is one grunt, but instead of doing what it states right here because the leader has been killed off, they're all going to flee off the game board. And that, my friends, ends up being a success for the Giggarat mission inside of Bloodwork. We're going to transition and I'll talk about what happens after a mission is completed in just a moment, but let's read some narrative around what just happened. The Goblin Leader was surprisingly quick on those stilts of his, cursing us as he sprinted away. He vowed revenge, they always do, but the streets were soon quiet save for the dying campfire at our feet. But something else that lays at our feet is the elixir, which we were able to pick up off this Goblin Leader. You'll see on one side, it specifically talks about how the leader will use this card and how we can acquire it, but once we have it, we flip it over to the other side, and now we can use it within our party. When you complete the mission, you're going to gain 20 XP. You're also going to gain 10 gold on top of the gold that we got from all the different dig sites and treasure that we found, which is a total of 6. Added on to the 10 is a total of 16 gold. And we also got temple robes. This comes in as a recipe. And using those resources on the back of the card, you can craft the temple robes. And as you know, we were able to take the elixir off of the Goblin Leader. When you gain XP, the first thing you'll do is check the threshold to see if your party is leveling up, and in this case, 20 XP from this mission will push us to level number 2. As you continue to level up across the campaign, every single level will provide a mercenary with one of 3 rewards, whether it's a secondary attribute of the player's choice, a random secondary attribute, or a primary attribute, or unlocking a secondary or master class, which includes gaining access to a new skill card. So with 20 XP here on the left, we can go to level 2, giving us 1 random secondary attribute. So for each member in your party, you'll be going ahead and rolling for a random secondary attribute bump, and you're going to do this by first checking that character's primary attribute. So in this case, for the archer, it is going to be agility, so that one's not going to count as being one to bump up during this roll. It's a random roll, so 1 and 2 is for might, 3 and 4 is normally for agility, you just re-roll in that case. 5 and 6 for wit, 7 and 8 for faith, and 9 and 10 for luck. So let's make the roll and see what we're bumping up today. So it will change to 6-3. And you'll continue to do this through all the rest of the characters, noting that again, each one of them is going to have a unique primary attribute, which will not be part of the equation for this particular upgrade. Now we go to the loot tables, and because we took down the leader, Giggarat, we're going to be rolling on his table 2 times with D10. Let's see what we get off of him. We got an 8. That is going to be the lucky left hand accessory. And finally, a 5. That is going to be iron. So here's a look at the lucky left hand, which gives a +1 to luck for the individual wearing it. Also, the 1 iron is going to be found in token form in the final version. Here in the prototype, I'm just marking it down off to the side. Now we go to the next loot table, which is all about the grunts that we took out. Now, it was interesting because we took out 6 grunts originally, but then the leader revived one, so technically we only took out 5 in the end, so I've also adjusted the contract to be 5 versus 6 killed off, so we're going to roll 5 times on this table. All right, so the very first roll is going to be a 5. That's going to be 1 leather. Next, a 4. That's going to be a copper. Next is going to be a 3. That's a wood. So we got 1 of each of those now. Then another 5. So it's another leather. So 2 leather, a copper, and a wood. And finally, another wood. At this point, we're done with all the rewards from the mission, and we're going to transition to the town phase, which allows us to interact with the blacksmith with our coins and all the material resources we just gained. As I mentioned, now we have a number of things like 1 iron, 2 leather, 2 wood, and a copper. So for instance, if we happen to have magical dust as well as silk, we could go ahead and craft the temple robes, but for now, we don't have those things. As you continue your journey through the campaign, you'll be unlocking other places within the town, various buildings and services providing you different benefits. The blacksmith is certainly one of them. And at the blacksmith, the mercenaries can buy and also craft the weapons, as I mentioned. And you can shop for updates after each chapter of the campaign. So every single time you complete a chapter, you can come back and see what you can actually obtain. So as you expect, there is a blacksmith table here showing you what items are available for the specific chapter that you're in. At the end of it, then you come here with your materials and your gold, and you can choose which way you want to go in order to craft or purchase items. You can also try to go ahead and maintain sets. You can see here, get a set of copper things or a set of leather, and of course that'll afford additional bonuses by having sets. Now here's a look at the items available in the blacksmith right now, so you can take a look at them to see what kind of cool abilities and things they're going to provide for you. You'll also notice, as I mentioned before, certain ones will just provide additions to certain abilities that you have on your dashboard. Other ones will say that if you have a set, for instance, 4 of the same set, 4 copper towards your armor, then you gain 1 might. So those kind of advantages are what I was talking about in terms of additional bonuses. Also on the back side of each of the cards is exactly what you saw on the table. So if you're looking to purchase or craft, you can quite easily just flip the card over to see exactly what you need. And for those that are interested in seeing all the cards that are inside this deck, you can check out my prototype unboxing where I show every single card that came as part of the prototype, but there's 2 of all 15 cards that are available from that table you just saw moments ago. Once you're done inside the town, leveling up and gearing up, you can head into your next quest for Bloodwork from iDemo Games. Now there is one thing I want to mention around achievements that actually happens the moment you complete them. Now, as I mentioned during gameplay, when you complete an achievement, which we did here with the Death Blow, this is the one that actually made it to the requirement of 4, you're going to flip the card over, and this again pertains to the class character that you're playing. In this case, that is going to be the Archer. The character that gains the achievement also gains something additional when their turn comes around immediately after completing the achievement. So even during gameplay in the finale, when we hit this at 4, you'd immediately flip this over and gain precision in the case of the Archer, which is a nice benefit. Each one of these cards for achievements ties back to one of the different characters, so you're always trying to push to complete yours to gain a fun benefit along the way. Now this leads us into contracts, which are more like side quests that you're dealing with as you go through the campaign. So we have 2 different ones here. One is certainly one you complete within a mission. The other is going to go on for a while, because the Goblin Head one that we have 5 Goblin Heads from, that is going to provide us 5 of the 15 we need to complete the contract. Once we have 15 inside the town phase, which we just completed, you then go ahead and gain runes from that. You're going to flip the card over and it will let you know what the benefit is on the opposite side. I'm not going to spoil anything. And the Lost Ledgers up at the very top there, we did actually complete, so we would actually flip this one over, but again, I'll keep it secret. And that's going to wrap up my GameFound preview series for Bloodwork, coming from iDemo Games, landing on GameFound very soon. The exact date and the link to the campaign page found in the pinned comment and video description. I really hope this series helps you make an informed decision on it, and if you have any questions at all, let me know in the comments down below. Would love to hear your thoughts about the play, and as always, keep on rolling solo!